I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? And this is a question that we must ask ourselves. Do we believe this? And would we give an answer that, like the one that Martha is about to give in her grief and standing before her Lord? She says this in probably one of the greatest confessions, right alongside, in my mind, Peter's good confession in Matthew. She says to him in verse 27, "Yes, Lord, I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world." So I have believed that you are the Christ, the Messiah, the long-promised one that we have been waiting for, the consolation of Israel, who is the Son of God, who has come into the world. So this is Martha's good confession, and one that we should all make from the heart. If we've made this confession from the heart, then we can trust that like he said, that we will live even if we die, and if we live and believe in him, we will never die. We can trust that 100%. Verse 28, when she had said this, she went away and called Mary her sister, saying secretly, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when Mary heard it, she got up quickly and was coming to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. Then the Jews who were with her at her house, Mary now, consoling her, when they saw Mary got up quickly and went out, and they followed her, supposing that she was going to go to the tomb and mourn. So we have our morning party here, and now we're going to go to the tomb and weep there. Verse 32. Therefore, when Mary came to where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Now, where have we heard that before? Oh, wait a minute. Martha said it in verse 21, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And when Mary says it, she says it falling at his feet. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." The exact same words. But what's Jesus' reaction? Rather than speak to her, what's it say? Verse 33, when Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews had came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and was troubled. And friends, I love this translation, the New American Standard Bible, but there are very few translations that even approach to what is being said here. The word in the Greek is almost like it's saying that he snorted like an angry horse. He groaned in his spirit. And in fact, he was angry. And so we must ask ourselves, this is a profound verse, friends, profound verse. We must ask ourselves, here he is, the creator of the universe, the one who holds life and death in his hand. He just said, "I am the resurrection and the life." So how can he be angry? How can the creator of the universe, the one who is sovereign over everything, be angry at this situation? Who is he angry with? Think about it. Who is he angry with? Well, it confirms for me in a great way the entirety of the Christian worldview, because he did not create the universe this way. He did not create the world this way, but rather because of sin, because of the way it was spoiled, going back to the fall, it's out of joint. It's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not the way he intended. And so in seeing this, he was made angry and deeply moved. That's one. Second, we here see the full incarnation of the Son of God. He is fully human. And the reason he is angry and upset and deeply moved in his spirit is because he is feeling the full emotional weight of looking at those whom he loves being so heartbroken. And he's entering into their emotions. He's entering into our emotions. So it is like it says in Hebrews. Turn over to the book of Hebrews. And we get an excellent picture of this here. Speaking of Jesus as our high priest. Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews is past the letters of Paul. In fact, I would say it's the last of Paul's epistles. It's not a popular view, but that's my view. And then drop into verse 14. Hebrews 4:14. It says, "Therefore, since we have such a great high priest, who has passed through the heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold fast to our confession." Verse 15, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin." Why? Because he became fully human. He became one of us to enter into our weaknesses and experience everything as we've been experienced, yet without sin. Verse 16, "Therefore, let us draw near." To who? To God. To the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. From who? From our sympathetic high priest. From our empathetic and sympathetic high priest. And then moving into chapter 5, verse 1. "For every high priest taken from among men is appointed on behalf of men in things pertaining to God, in order to offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can deal gently with the ignorant and misguided, since he himself is also beset with weaknesses. And because of it, he is obligated to offer sacrifices for sins, as for people, also for himself." And now drop down to verse 7. "In the days of his flesh," talking about Christ now, "in the days of his flesh, when he was on the earth, he offered up both prayers and supplications with loud crying and tears to the one able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his piety. Although he was a son, he learned obedience from the things which he suffered, and having been made perfect, he became to all those who obey him the source of eternal salvation." And so this is the high priest. This is our Savior whom we serve, one who is so fully human that he can be undone by a situation around him, so much so that he is angry and deeply moved and troubled in his spirit. Verse 34, "And he said to them, 'Where have you laid him?' And they said to him, 'Lord, come and see.'" And then we have the famous shortest verse in the Bible, verse 35, "Jesus wept." And it was, the word here is different than what we just saw about him being troubled and angry in his spirit. It's a silent kind of tears that he is crying. But the Jews there saw it, verse 36, saying, "See how he loved him. See how he loved him." Verse 36. "But some of them said, 'Could not this man, who opened the eyes of the blind man, have kept this man also from dying?'" Again, verse 38, "Jesus, again being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was lying against it." And this is the kind of tomb that Jesus will occupy for a short time also, in a matter of a couple of weeks. And so it's a cave with that probably shelves have been cut into, and then when somebody dies, they are wrapped in their funeral wrappings, and then placed on this shelf. And then what would happen, because the Jews believed in the resurrection, is that a year from now, once the body had completely decomposed, the bones would be collected and washed, and then put in what's called an ossuary, or a bone box. And that's what would have happened to Lazarus, except what's about to come. So and then after that they put the stone on. They put the stone across it so that it could not be disturbed. And Jesus said, "Remove the stone." Now, immediately we might think, well, why? Jesus had the power. We know what he's about to do. He had the power to raise Lazarus from the dead. He had the power. He could have healed him from a distance. Why didn't he not just supernaturally throw the stone down, have it move of its own accord? Well, I like what one commentator said. He said, Jesus was not going to do anything that they also had the power to do. He was only going to do what only he had the power to do. So anything that they could do, he was going to let them do or make them do. But Martha then says, the sister of the deceased said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." And everybody that I've read draws attention to what the King James says is, "Lord, by this time he stinketh." But it says there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. And I don't know if you've ever run across a dead animal or had the misfortune to be exposed to a body that's been dead for several days, but thankfully I've not. And it's I got a storm coming in, so I apologize if you can hear that. But if you've ever experienced that stench of decaying flesh, it is not pleasant. And in this environment, this desert environment, there was no embalming. The corpses, again, as I said, would be buried right away, put in their funeral wrappings. They may have been had some incense or something put on it, but that was just a mask. It would not have stopped it by any means. And so Martha knew that opening that tomb would not be a pleasant experience. And she said to him, so she said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he's been dead 4 days." And the 4 days, some commentaries mention that there was a tradition. I'm not sure how much of this is true, but there was a tradition amongst the Jews that a spirit would hang around a body for 3 days, just in case that there was an opportunity to go back in it. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I didn't look it up, but the point is that after 4 days, he was dead. 4 days in the tomb, he was dead. No question about it. It's verse 40, and says to her, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So, with his persistence, they removed the stone. At his insistence, they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me." Now, why is he doing this out loud? Well, for their sake. He wants them to know who it is he's talking to, and who it is whose power is doing what. He didn't want to be accused of sorcery or anything like that, so he's talking to God out loud and letting them know that who his Father is, that he's in communication with his Father. Verse 42, "I knew that you always hear me, but because of the people standing around, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me." And when he had said these things, verse 43, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And of course, that's what he's going to do to all of us one day. We have to go back to, I think it's chapter 5, and just say it again. I've already alluded to it, but I just want to read it. Chapter 5, verse 25. He says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, an hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear will live." Who is the dead who heard the voice of the Son of God? Lazarus. And then he says in verse 28, "Do not marvel at this, for an hour is coming, but is not yet, but is coming, in which all who are in the tombs," so everybody, in every cemetery, and every burial at sea, every cremation, every incineration, everything, everywhere, everybody who is dead. Everyone who is in the tombs will hear his voice and will come forth. Those who did the good deeds to a resurrection of life, and those who committed the evil deeds to a resurrection of judgment. So, that's what he's going to do to all of us. He's going to call our names, and we're all going to come forth. But now he's only calling one name. And it's often been said that he needed to say Lazarus, because if he said come forth, everybody in the tombs would have come at that time. Lazarus, come forth. Verse 44, the man who had died came forth, bound hand and foot with wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with a cloth. And we can only compare this to this is a preview of what we'll get with Jesus' resurrection, where Jesus' funeral wrappings will be left on the shelf, no longer needed, and the napkin that was over his face left folded and empty and never needed again, whereas Lazarus comes forth in his. It's a difference. Lazarus, of course, was resuscitated. Lazarus dies again someday, later, but Jesus, when he's resurrected in his resurrection body, never to die again. It's a very different situation. Everyone who's resurrected in the New Testament, the son of the widow in Nain, Jairus' daughter, the couple of people that were resurrected by Peter and Paul, all these people died again. So it's they were brought back to life, resuscitated, restored. But Jesus represents the final resurrection, the first fruits, that he has a new resurrection body that can never die again. When Jesus had, so Jesus says at the end of verse 44, Jesus said to them, unbind him and let him go. And what was the result? What you would expect? Well, this is what you would expect. It should say in verse 45, therefore the Jews, all of the Jews who came with Mary and saw what he had done, believed in him. But unfortunately it does not say that. It says in verse 45, therefore many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what he had done, believed in him. But, verse 46, some of them, again, incontrovertible evidence, some of them went to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus had done. So, incontrovertible evidence. A man 4 days dead in the tomb, raised from the dead. Many believed, but some had hardened hearts and went and told the Pharisees. And then we have the epilogue to this story here in the last few verses of chapter 11. We change the scene now. So now the people who did not believe went and told the Pharisees. Verse 47, therefore the chief priests and the Pharisees convened a council and were saying, what are we doing? Or what are we going to do? For this man is performing many signs. Verse 48, if we let him go on like this, as if they had a choice, if we let him go on like this, all men will believe in him. Wouldn't that be terrible? And the Romans will come and take away both our place, in other words, our position, our place, and our nation. Such good shepherds, aren't they? But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you take into account that it is expedient or better for you that one man die for the people, and that the whole nation not perish. Now he did not say this on his own initiative, but being high priest that year, he had prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation, and not the nation only, but in order that he might also gather together into one the children of God who are scattered abroad, going back to what he said in chapter 10 about his sheep and the other flock that he has. So, not to say that Caiaphas knew that he was prophesying this at all, but he said this, and it was a prophecy that God had made him say, but God had other meaning that he understood for it. So verse 53, the result was, from that day on, they planned together to kill him, meaning Jesus. Verse 54, then, therefore Jesus could no longer continue to walk publicly among the Jews, but went away from there to the country near the wilderness, to the city called Ephraim, and stayed there with the disciples. Verse 55, now the Passover of the Jews was near, and many went up to Jerusalem out of the country before the Passover to purify themselves. And they were seeking for Jesus, and were saying to one another as they stood in the temple, what do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all? Now the chief priests and the Pharisees, verse 57, had given orders that anyone who knew where he was to report it, so that they might seize him. So this, friends, is the Passover that at which Jesus will die, that he will be crucified. And so here we are. John is 22 chapters. Not that the chapters are all of equal length, but basically we're come to the midpoint of John, and the rest of John, chapters 12 through 21, will cover basically the last week of Jesus' life. So this first part has covered all this time, these incidents, these signs that he's written about over the 3 years of his ministry. And now these last chapters will cover the Passion Week, his death and his resurrection. So, all right. Well, hopefully you found that helpful and encouraging. And I hope, friends, each person watching this can hear the voice of the Son of God say those words that he said to Martha, saying, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? And I want you, friends, to hear Jesus say those words to you. Do you believe this? And then in your heart, be convinced in your heart and give the answer that Martha gives, saying, yes, Lord, I have believed that you are the Christ, the Son of God, even he who comes into the world. And I believe that you died for me and that you were raised again on the third day. And that by believing in you, I have life in your name. So, friends, love to hear your thoughts on this chapter. Let me know in the comments. Love hearing from you in the comments. If you appreciate this kind of content on YouTube, I'd appreciate it if you'd click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tune in next time as we move on to chapter 12. And so we'll see you then on Understanding Your Bible. Thanks, friends.